Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the fiery world of Genshin Impact to talk about one of the most exciting elemental forces, Pyro. Whether you're igniting your enemies or creating powerful elemental reactions, Pyro characters bring a lot to the table. But with so many fiery faces to choose from, who truly stands out as the best? Well, you're in luck because we've put together a Pyro character tier list just for you. So grab your favorite snacks, get comfy, and let's ignite this discussion. We'll break down which Pyro characters shine the brightest and help you maximize your damage output in the game. From powerful DPS heroes to versatile support characters, we've got you covered. Let's find out which Pyro users deserve a spot at the top of your roster and light up your Genshin Impact adventures. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking Pyro characters in Genshin Impact. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
My friends, only 0.1% of viewers subscribe. If you like this type of content, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you in advance for your support.
The Pyro characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Yanfei, Dehya, and Xinyan. Alright, let's dive into some of the C-tier Pyro characters in Genshin Impact. First up, we have Yanfei. Now don't get me wrong, she's got some solid Pyro damage with a high base attack for a 4-star character. What's great is her ability to trigger elemental reactions with her catalyst attacks. Her normal and charged attacks are long-ranged, which is super handy for locking onto targets. But here's the catch. Her elemental skill and burst are a bit short-ranged, so you'll need to keep enemies close for those to land. And let's not forget about stamina. Since her main damage comes from charged attacks, she burns through stamina pretty quickly. If you happen to snag her C1 constellation, things can get a lot easier and more fun. Next, let's talk about Dehya. Dehya, she's definitely one of the more controversial characters out there. What's interesting about her is that she provides consistent off-field pyro damage that can be repositioned, plus she has a pretty impressive base HP. So, she can serve as a decent pyro support character. However, when it comes to damage, her DPS and elemental particle generation fall short. If you're not heavily investing in her, you might find her lacking as a main or sub DPS. Even with a bit of investment, her damage output can still be underwhelming without those crucial buffs. So, keep that in mind if you're considering her for your team. Now, let's shine the spotlight on Xinyan. This girl can put up a decent shield with her elemental skill, which scales off her defense as long as she hits multiple enemies. But here's where it gets a bit tricky. Her ascension stats focus on attack, which means she's not exactly the best at utilizing her own shield. Plus, her elemental burst deals both physical and pyro damage, but honestly, the damage output is just mediocre. If you're looking for a character who can really pack a punch, you might be better off with someone else. So, what's the takeaway here? Each of these characters brings something unique to the table, but they also come with their own set of challenges. Yanfei has a great base attack and elemental reaction potential, but her stamina consumption can be a hassle. Dehya offers off-field damage and high HP, but you'll need to invest in her to see any real DPS. And then there's Xinyan, who can provide decent shields, but struggles with damage due to her stat clashes. Ultimately, while these characters might not be at the top of the tier list, they can still have their moments. If you enjoy their playstyles and can work around their weaknesses, you might just find a place for them in your party. Just remember to have fun experimenting and finding the best team composition that suits your style. The Pyro characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Yoimiya, Thoma, Klee, and Amber. Alright, let's dive into our B tier Pyro characters in Genshin Impact. First up, we have the fireworks loving girl, Yoimiya. Now don't get me wrong, she's a blast to play with, but when you stack her up against the heavy hitters like Hu Tao, she falls a bit short. One of her biggest issues is targeting. Ever try to hit that one enemy while they were dodging like it's the latest dance trend? Yeah, it's a bit of a struggle, but get her a good shielder and maybe a couple of off-field element applicators, and suddenly she can melt enemies in one-on-one situations. Just remember, her support skill, boosting her teammates' attack after her elemental burst, isn't exactly utilized as often as you might think, especially when it comes to dealing AoE pyro damage. Next, let's talk about Thoma. Now Thoma is definitely a solid pick, but he really shines in a mono pyro or burgeon setup. His elemental skill gives a nice pyro damage shield, which is great, but when it comes to his elemental burst, it's got a high energy cost. You're going to need some artifacts and a decent weapon to really make it work. Still, if you can manage that, his burst will deal AoE damage periodically, perfect for getting those burgeon reactions going. Oh, and let's not forget his exploration skill. It gives you a chance at a double catch while fishing, so he's got some fun utility outside of combat. Now, let's shine a spotlight on Klee, the tiny bomb expert. Klee can unleash some serious damage with her elemental skill and burst, especially thanks to her high base attack and extra Pyro ascension stats. She's like a little firecracker that can inflict continuous Pyro damage. But here's the catch, she's got a bit of a range issue. If you can't get her close enough to the enemies, all that potential damage can go down the drain. Plus, she consumes a lot of stamina when sprinting, so if you want to get her in there, you better plan your moves carefully. And then there's Amber. Poor Amber, she's had a rough time in the Genshin community. Her elemental skill has a super long cooldown, and the damage output for both her skill and burst is just meh. Triggering the explosion manually with Baron Bunny? Yeah, it's not really worth it for the payoff you get. If you're looking for a strong Pyro character, Amber might not be your best bet. Still, she has her charm, and who can resist her adorable personality? So there you have it. B-tier Pyro characters may not be the flashiest or most powerful in the game, but each of them has their own unique flavor and quirks. Whether you prefer the fiery explosions of Klee, the supportive role of Toma, or the fun of Yoimiya's fireworks, there's still something special about these characters. Who knows, with the right team composition and strategies, you might just find a way to make them shine. That's all for today. What did you think about these B-tier Pyro characters? Do you have a favorite? Let me know in the comments below. The Pyro characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Xiangling, Gaming, and Diluc. Alright folks, let's dive into the fiery world of Pyro characters in Genshin Impact. First up, we have Xiangling, our little chef extraordinaire. Now, don't let her petite size fool you, she packs quite the punch. Her elemental skill, which summons Guoba, deals decent off-field Pyro damage and helps generate energy for her ultimate. And speaking of her ultimate, Pyronado is a showstopper. It surrounds your active character and deals continuous Pyro damage, making her a fantastic asset in elemental reaction teams. Just a heads up though, she's a bit energy hungry. Pair her up with another Pyro character like Bennett and watch the magic unfold. Moving on, let's talk about Gaming. Yes, that's his name. He's kind of like a budget Xiao, but honestly, he's so much more. His damage output mainly relies on plunging attacks, and trust me, he can hold his own against 5-star DPS characters. He's got high base scalings, making him feel like a hidden 5-star gem, especially if you manage to snag his C6. The best part? He can heal himself with both his elemental skill and burst, so even without Furina, he's pretty self-sufficient. If you're looking for a low rarity unit that can dish out serious damage, Gaming is definitely your guy. Now, let's not forget Diluc, the legendary Dark Knight hero. He might have been left in the shadows with the rise of characters like Xian Yun, but trust me, he's still got it. With the highest plunging attack ratio among Pyro characters, Diluc synergizes beautifully with Xian Yun. This means his damage potential skyrockets, especially when he triggers reactions with each plunge. Diluc shines brightly at C0, even outpacing C0 Gaming, but if Gaming hits C6, it can get a little competitive. Still, you can't deny the nostalgic power of our beloved Diluc. When it comes to team compositions, Diluc's strongest comps can significantly outperform average vaporized teams. Pair him with characters that can amplify his damage further, and you've got yourself a recipe for success. Imagine unleashing a flurry of plunging attacks while your teammates provide support and healing. It's a beautiful sight, isn't it? In the end, each of these Pyro characters brings something unique to the table. Whether you're cooking up explosive combos with Xiangling, unleashing the power of plunging attacks with Gaming, or soaring high with Diluc, the Pyro element has never been more exciting. So, who's your favorite Pyro character? Let me know in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. The Pyro characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Arlecchino, Chevreuse, Bennett, Liney, and Hu Tao. Alright folks, let's dive into some serious Pyro power. Starting off, we have the fiery powerhouse Arlecchino. This character has completely shattered the Pyro tier with her insane raw damage output. Seriously, even without triggering reactions like Vaporize or Overload, she's a beast. Think of her playstyle as a more complex version of Hu Tao's. You'll want to spam her normal attacks after activating her skill, and trust me, Arlecchino makes it super satisfying. Her normal attacks are not only faster, but also have a wider AoE and hit way harder than Hu Tao's. But here's the catch. Mastering Arlecchino isn't a walk in the park. Her mechanics, especially the Blood Debt Directive, can be pretty tricky for newcomers. If you're new to the game, don't get discouraged. Once you wrap your head around how this Harbinger works, you'll realize it's all worth the effort. I mean, who wouldn't want to unleash massive damage on their foes? Just be ready for a little learning curve. Now, let's talk about Chevreuse. She's a fantastic option if your Anemo roster isn't quite cutting it. This snack-loving character comes packing a serious punch with her Electro and Pyro resistance shred debuff. The best part? Even at C0, she can buff ATK and provide healing, making her a solid choice for your team. But wait, there's more! At C6, she becomes a total game changer and can even replace your Anemo character in overload teams. However, keep in mind that her strength shines primarily in that specific setup. Moving on, we can't forget about the beloved Bennett. If Kazuha is the cream of the crop when it comes to 5-star support, Bennett is absolutely the king of 4-star supports. His elemental skill is quick to cool down, especially when you use charge level 1. Trust me, you'll want to do that for maximum particle generation. And don't even get me started on his elemental burst. It's the main event, allowing him to buff ATK and heal his teammates all while dealing decent damage. It's a win-win, folks. Next up is Liney. This magician is all about that mono pyro team life. Unlike some other characters, he really thrives when surrounded by his element. Luckily, his passive talents lend a helping hand to keep things running smoothly. His charged ATK can dish out some serious damage while his Grin Malkin hat taunts enemies, which is a game saver. But, and here's the kicker, Liney can be easily interrupted, so that taunt is super crucial for his survival. Now let's talk about his little dilemma. His charged ATK decreases his HP, and he can only stack his damage when his HP is above 60%. So, if you want to maximize Liney's potential, you're going to need a healer on hand. Cue Bennett to the rescue. He can keep Liney's HP topped up so that he can go to town with those huge damage numbers. Last but certainly not least, we have Hu Tao. This fiery lady is a fan favorite for a reason. With her elemental skill, she can deliver consistent damage while buffing her charged attack. Her multipliers are off the charts, especially when her HP dips below 50%. Plus, her elemental burst not only deals considerable damage, but also heals her, making her an excellent choice for teams that prefer to go without a dedicated healer. Sure, using her at C0 can be a bit of a challenge since you'll need to pull off some animation cancelling for optimal damage. But with the right support like Xianyun or even her C1, you'll be able to unleash her full potential in no time. So there you have it, the S-tier Pyro characters in Genshin Impact. They may have their complexities, but once you get the hang of their mechanics, you'll be melting enemies left and right. Happy adventuring, and may your Pyro dreams burn bright! The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.